All right, so recording's on, and let me share my screen. All right, so good morning and welcome. Um, I'm Maulik Soni, Cloud Solutions Architect for Microsoft. Uh, Today we will go over Azure Media Services capabilities to generate the caption file and utilize those caption files into Azure Media Player. Before we begin this session, we'll just go over a quick service update. So the one service update that's very interesting to me is we have now Azure has released the blob lifecycle management. What essentially this is that Azure storage has a different tiers like hot, cool, and archive. Using this lifecycle management feature in Azure, we can create a policy to change the storage blob tiers from hot, cool to archive. I think it's pretty useful because without this lifecycle policy management, in past we had to either programmatically change those tiers, and with the lifecycle management available now, we can create a policy, say after 15 days, if there is no activity in a hot tier blob container, change the status to the archive tier so that customer can leverage both long-term retention and lower cost. So go ahead and check out this feature. And with that, I'll start with the Azure Media Services closed captioning support. Again, a recap, Azure Media Services is a cloud-based platform for media-related workflows from acquisition, transcoding, also intelligent indexing, as well as the content protection, and finally playing back for customer using Azure Media Player. And today we'll talk about the captions. If you have observed, most of the DVD content or the TV or the video player has a support for displaying a closed captions. So closed captions are text that has been time synchronized with media. In captions convey the spoken content as well as the relevant sound effects. Originally, the captions were mandated by FCC for broadcast TV. There are 3 different laws for any broadcasting that covers this, that they have to provide a closed caption support on their content. Okay, and there are various terminologies around captioning, closed captioning, and subtitles. So we can take a look at the differences real quick. The first thing is the captions versus transcript. So transcript is just a text. There is no time information. If you remember Azure Video Indexer, it can generate a transcript for an entire video. So there are intelligent capabilities which can generate transcripts. And in general, transcript does not have the time information when the word was spoken or the sentence was spoken. Versus caption has the time information. And differentiating between those two is the captions are required by law for public broadcasting. The second is closed captions versus subtitles. So again, captions assumes viewer cannot hear, and it includes the non-speech elements like sound effects, clapping, and so forth. While subtitle, the assumption is that viewer is perfectly able to hear, but they don't understand the language. So like watching a foreign movie, if I don't understand the language, I will turn on subtitles so that I can see those subtitles in English and I can continue to watch. And essentially subtitles are translations to a foreign languages. The next thing is closed captions versus open captions. Closed captions exist as a separate track, and more specific to media terminology, those are the sidecar files, which we can provide alongside with a video track. And user has an ability to turn on or off. You have noticed in your TVs, YouTube player, or whatever media player you use, Netflix, you as a user has the ability to turn on and off the captions. Those are considered closed captions. And open captions are burned into the video and they're visible all the time. And there are very specific instances there portion of video has some burned in captions. So those would be considered open captions. The last thing is the post-productions versus live captions. Two ways captions can be embedded or two different workflows a caption could be embedded. So post-production event is already recorded and the caption files are created and then provided as a separate file, or it could be embedded into the video itself. In live caption is generally performed by a person typing in real time when the event is happening. And most of the time, these live captioning events, they are few seconds or milliseconds behind the transmission. So person has time to follow up on physically typing the captions. Any questions so far? Okay. Here are the few closed caption formats. The most famous one or the most used one is SRT using the YouTube. So YouTube uses SRT file, but depending on the broadcast type and various standards, different files are closed caption file formats are used. The one in the demo today, we will be using WebVTT file, closed captioning file, which is supported by Azure Media Player. But few other file formats are SCC, the CAP for broadcasting, and there is a one for Windows Media is SAMI for Windows Media. So these are the different file formats. And here is a screen example, a screenshot of a WebVTT file. What it is a simple text file. Um, the type, the node field, and then this is the frame for the time information. The first line you see here is the time information, and then the next line is the text information. So as I said earlier, the closed captions are time related information. So as the time changes, the text also has association with the time, and the player during the playback, player knows where the current time is, and then the captions are rendered on the player. Okay, so we'll move on to the demo. Okay. So just a recap, I presented media services in probably 2 or 3 weeks back. To get started, you can go into your resource group and create a media services. So search for the marketplace, media services. And we'll walk over the basic information. So you can provide your account name, the subscription, the resource group, the location for the media services account, and media services requires a storage account. You can either specify an existing one or you can create one. Now, creating media services could take probably 5 or 7 minutes up to 10 minutes. So I went ahead and created an instance already. So I'll go back to my subscription. Once the media service account is created, you will see 3 different items. One is the storage account, the streaming endpoint, and the media services. Once you publish the media, you will see the CDN endpoints. So we'll go to the media services account, and I will upload a video which we will do the kind of auto captioning workflow. So instead of hand typing the captions, I'm going to rely on speech to text to create me the base file for the captioning. In normal circumstances, people would do the QC on those files, add or remove things to the caption file, and then finally publish it. So first thing we need to do in media services is go to the assets and upload the video. That's where the workflow starts. So I'm going to select my video file. So it's going to take a few minutes to upload the file. It's around 35 megabits. So once the file is uploaded, I can go back to the assets again to get into the second view where I can analyze the file for generating the captions and encode a file for streaming purposes. And in the meantime, you can also look at the progress. It's pretty quick. Okay, so once the file is uploaded, just need to refresh the assets. Should be available here, and then click on the asset. So here we will do. Let's go back and real quick. We will do the analyze on it. So this analyze step provides some sort of kind of extracting a text from speech information. We will be using the media indexer and the language. And then content title and content descriptions optional. Here you can specify which caption file you want. So out of box media services supports, or the media indexer supports creating the TTML closed caption file, SAMI for Windows closed caption file, and then WebVTT for HTML uh, closed caption file. So I can go ahead and select all three and say create. Okay, so how media services works is all of your actions, whether it's encoding, analyzing, it creates a job. So we can go ahead and click on it. And the jobs are essentially a way to work, kind of a work breakdown. That's how media services process things. And depending on your media unit, or the reserve units, and the standard versus premium encoder, you have you have an ability to run multiple jobs at the same time or sequentially. If your workflow is such that you need to run through sequentially, that it can certainly do that. So at this time, Azure Media Services is using the media indexer service and trying to extract the speech to text information in a WebVTT and two other formats. So once this is done, we will be able to see those assets are available in the under the assets folder. So going back to assets. Okay. So this is the job that's currently working to generate the VTT files. While this is going, let me get started on encoding as well, so we can stream this video to Azure Media Player. So again, go back to your original asset, which was uploaded. And then this time I will use encode option. And then there are various presets available to do the video encoding. Again, all of the interaction that I'm doing through portal is also available via Azure Media Services REST API. And most of the production scenarios, we won't be doing things through portal. It will be programmatically via API. And API has a lot more flexibility to provide custom encoding templates, configuration, and then so forth. So since this is a simple use case, I will use the media encoder standard. On the encoding presets, I will be using the content adaptive multiple bitrate MP4 file. It generates specific bitrate ladder files, which is part of the template here. And then I'll go ahead and create. Again, a new job has been added, so we can go back to the job dashboard and see where we are. Here we can also change the priority. If you have a multiple jobs running, you can certainly specify the priority, which one you want to take care first. And there is also an option to run multiple jobs at the same time. There is a tool called Media Services Explorer, which provides lots of, it's a Windows-based tool. It provides a lot of functionality to play around with the different features of media services. So going back to the jobs to see if the previous one completed, we can go back to media services account and then go to the jobs. Okay. So here see that it's already the captioning job is processing and the second one is queued. Most probably because my setting is one job at a time. That's why it's processing sequentially. You can go back and see the progress. Okay. So while this is working, let me head back to the Azure Media Player. If you're not familiar with it, it's a Microsoft's JavaScript based media player. Okay, so it's MP demo on Azure EdgeNet. Go. All right, so this is the demo page for which shows different capabilities of Azure Media Player. If you scroll down, let me just pause this video as it loads because it auto starts. Okay, so the top part, this is the Azure Media Player. It's a JavaScript based player you can embed into the sites, supported on Xbox and so forth. This page also has some samples. For example, let's say you want to do the DRM example with a player ready wide wine or live smooth streaming sample that you want to see how the player works, as well as multi-audio on demand and 4K content. So there you can select the sample here and then the player will play those content. Uh, it has advanced options. So once you check the advanced option, there are different options available to taste your content. Like for example, in today's demo, I'll have my own URL. So once the content is ready for streaming, I'll put the URL and I'll configure the audio track, the caption tracks here. So we can certainly specify the advanced options for the content protection, the keys for content protections to test it out whether it's working or not. It has a tab on diagnostic information, so you can certainly look at various information, the bandwidth and time to download information to fine tune or adjust your bitrate ladder. Also, it provides the code. So let's say I need to embed this player on my site. There are three different options. Is I can either get a share code or embed code or the player code. So player code would essentially HTML links, scripts, references, and the JavaScript file for the player, which has embedded URL. So there are various options available to work with this Azure Media Player. So we'll head back to media services and see if we can, the captioning job is done. Okay, let's go back to the jobs again. Looks like it's still on 50%. Okay, now it's done. Okay, so once the captioning job is done, you can see the output files under assets. So I'll go back to the assets again. Go back here on asset. Okay. And then this is the one job that was completed with output. So click on it. And then we will be able to see the all three file formats which we selected before are generated and available here. So what we need to do now is once your VTT file is generated, you need to download it. So I already have downloaded here and can open it. Okay. Right. So as I said earlier, the format of the file is the frame, the caption file format, the notes, and then the time information with the text information. So at this point, I can, as a human QC, I can certainly edit this file before finally publishing it with the player. But you can see that this is for the entire length of video. It's been broken down in the different segments. Okay. So now we are waiting for video to be completed or encoded. So let me go back to jobs again and see where we are. Okay. So this will take time, most probably 5 or 7 minutes. I already have encoded video, so we'll continue to show the process. Okay. So once assume this is completed, you can go back to the assets again. And the workflow is you have the closed caption file, which was auto-generated and QC'd. You can go back to your streaming asset. So once the encoding is complete, you will see multi-bitrate MP4 assets. So you can go there. And we need to upload the VTT file as a bundle of this asset, which is available for streaming. Right. So go back here. And you can see that the multi-bitrate has created files with a different screen resolution and bitrate. All we need to do here is upload captions. So we'll go ahead and upload it. So we'll select the file. Okay. Okay, I already have the VTT file uploaded here. So once you upload the file, need to publish the asset. Without publishing, the streaming won't be possible. And if you're publishing first time, it will create the CDN endpoint. So it may take maybe a couple minutes. In this case, what I have done is two things. I have turned on or started my streaming endpoint, which you can do by going back to overview page, and you will see the status of the streaming endpoint. So I have it running. If it is not running, stop. You can click on it and then say start the streaming endpoint. So once the streaming endpoint is running, you can go back and then publish the asset. Okay, so the two options here, streaming and progressive. So I'm going to select the streaming and then the start and an end time and then say add. Okay, so now you can see the streaming locator has been added. You can taste the video right off the Azure portal. So click on play. Okay, so this is a small documentary about British Empire, and there is a lot of speech information. It's perfect for closed captioning. Essentially, at this point, the video is running. I can grab the playback URL. So we'll copy this playback URL and head to the Azure Media Player and then go to the setup. In this case, I'm going to replacing this video URL with my own playback URL. What happened? Copy. Okay, we'll remove the HTTP out of it. And at this point, I'll just test the player. So by update, and should be able to play my video from streaming. Perfect. So at this point, video looks good. Now we need to embed the closed caption file, which was generated and attached to the same asset as this video. For that, you can go to the advanced options and then select the tracks. So I'm going to add a track. In this case is a captions and label English. Language is English. Okay, so here we can specify the WebVTT URL, which is the file that we earlier generated and then uploaded into the same asset bundle as our video player is. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this URL here and we will format it to remove the manifest and ISM as well, and just say ve.vtt and update player. All right. So as you can see, a new icon has appeared here. I'm going to turn on the captioning. So English and just play the video. And so you can see that the captions are following speech. You won't be able to hear the audio, but you see the captions changing based on the time code information where the current player status is. All right, so that's all for the demo today. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question around translations. So going through the whole process, now you have whatever language you captured your audio in the first place. Is there a tool, a method, or process to then take that VTT or SRT file and get it translated? Now, I know we can use things like Bing Translate or some other tool like that, but it doesn't come back in that same format. So we lose all of that VTT or SRT formatting. So is there some way to do that and keep the formatting for translations?
So translation, as you described earlier, independently can be done. At this point, I'm not aware. If anybody else knows, please feel free to chime in. But I'm not aware that we can do the translation while keeping the VTT format intact. Yep, great question. Need to find out more about that. Any other question?
Yeah, Maulik, what is the dependency on the player? Because in real life scenario, right, customers will be using their own players. Now the
Yes.
formats that we are selecting, how interoperable are they?
Yeah, so WebVTT is a standard web format for HTML5. Now, for example, as I said earlier, in a format, there are different formats which are supported by different players. So in today's world, if it is a JW player or any web-based player, they would probably support the WebVTT file. That's the standard. It's not a Microsoft standard. So they most the modern HTML player will support the WebVTT. Now some player like a real player and some Windows or sorry the desktop based player have different format they use. Another example is like YouTube. So YouTube uses the SRT file format, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But most of if your question is about implementing using HTML5 modern JavaScript based browser based player, then they will all be supporting WebVTT as a file. And there are certain tools and certain platform that provide the translation from one format to another. So from WebVTT to SRT and so forth. So it's just the structure of file. But WebVTT is certainly available beyond Azure Media Player.
Great. Now, I was not sure if Dean's question was the translation of the voice or the translation of the closed caption. Like, which one does that? Is that taken care by our service?
Well, my question was more around, so I have my own YouTube channel and everything that I do is in English, but I want to make the closed captioning available in other languages. So I've captured the SRT file from YouTube and then put it through my my translation tool into the other language, but then you lose all of the SRT formatting and it just gives you plain text. So I was hoping there was some way to use either our services or if there was another tool that someone knows of to be able to feed it the SRT formatted file in one language and get it back SRT format in another language.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was expecting the same thing as well, that how those are available depending on what the user's language preference would be.
Cool. Any more questions? All right. If not, then happy Friday, and we'll see you guys on the next Friday. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maulik. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.